Ever find yourself, like, daydreaming about a future where, electric cars are just everywhere?
Yeah, totally. It's a pretty common daydream these days.
Right. And well, you've got the big names like Tesla always grabbing headlines.
Yeah.
There's this other player, a quieter giant, you could say, powering this whole electric revolution.
Oh, absolutely. The companies behind the scenes are often the most interesting.
That's what this deep dive is all about. We're diving into CATL, a name you might not know yet.
But you should,
Mhm.
because they're shaping the future of transportation, no question.
No question about it. We're going deep today, pulling everything from their Wikipedia article. Ready to uncover how this Chinese company, well, how they became the world leader in EV batteries.
And what that means, not just for how we drive, but like for how we live even, it's all connected.
Okay, so let's break this down for those who are just tuning in. Who is CATL?
The quick version, Contemporary Amperex Technology Co., Limited, founded in 2011, headquartered in China, and their game, lithium-ion batteries.
Those batteries, they're in what, practically everything these days, right?
Practically, phones, laptops, and more, like you said, the cars we drive.
And that's where CATL comes in. Their market share, it's kind of mind-blowing, 37% globally for EV batteries as of this year.
Yeah, more than a third. It's like they're running a marathon while everyone else is still at the starting line.
Seriously, they've got over 116,000 employees, pulled in $56.6 billion in revenue just last year. No wonder people are paying attention.
And it's not just the numbers. Look at who they're working with. Major partnerships, all the big names, BMW, Tesla, Volkswagen, you name it.
So this isn't just like supplying batteries for some niche electric car company. We're talking like the heavy hitters of the car world, right?
Yeah.
Putting their trust in CATL.
Exactly. And that says a lot, right? These companies, they're betting their electric future on CATL. It's a huge vote of confidence.
It really is. So how did they get here? Was it like overnight success?
Not quite. The Wikipedia article actually says they started as a spin-off from another battery company, ATL, founded by this guy, Robin Zhang. Seems like he saw the potential of electric vehicles, like way ahead of the curve.
He had a good feeling about it.
He did. And that foresight, combined with, some pretty favorable government support in China, well, it was a powerful combination.
Yeah, being in the right place at the right time and knowing what to do with it, I guess.
Exactly. They put their chips on electric vehicles before most people even knew it was a gamble worth taking.
Sounds like they had a plan and they weren't messing around. Partnering with BMW back in 2012, though, that's a bold move right out the gate.
Bold, yeah, but smart. Think about it. 2012, electric cars weren't exactly, flying off the lots.
It's not exactly mainstream yet.
Exactly. But that partnership, it gave CATL instant credibility. A seat at the table with the big leagues.
It's like they skipped right to the front of the line somehow.
They were in the game, yeah.
Yeah.
And by 2017, they're the world's top supplier of EV batteries. The top.
From, what was it, spin-off to global leader in what, like 5-6 years? It's crazy. How'd they do it? Did their Wikipedia article say anything about how they actually, work?
It did. And it's kind of interesting. Apparently, CATL's founder, he's a big believer in, learning from the best.
Okay, so, who are they looking to for inspiration?
The article specifically mentions TDK and Huawei, two companies known for, efficiency and innovation, of course.
TDK and Huawei, though. I mean, those aren't names you usually hear, in the car world. What makes their approach so special, so applicable to batteries?
Well, both companies, they're incredibly adaptable, right?
Mm.
Laser focus on quality. And keeping costs down is huge.
Exactly.
It's not about, reinventing the wheel every time. It's more about taking what works and making it even better, more efficient.
And that's CATL's philosophy, too.
Seems to be. They're not afraid to, take outside technology and make it their own. Always finding ways to do things better, faster, cheaper.
So it's less about, being secretive geniuses and more about being open to collaboration.
Exactly. And that brings us to, one of their big innovations, this cell-to-pack technology. Ever pack a suitcase?
Who hasn't?
Right. Most of us, we put stuff in smaller bags first, right? Then into the suitcase. But that leaves all that empty space.
Ugh, yeah, the worst.
The worst. But CATL's cell-to-pack technology, it's like getting rid of those smaller bags altogether. You're just putting everything directly into the suitcase, using every single inch of space.
So you're saying they figured out a way to, cram more battery into the same amount of space?
Exactly. More energy density, longer ranges for electric vehicles, potentially lower costs.
It's like finding a $20 bill in your pocket, but, every time you buy a car.
Haha, kind of. It's a win-win. But For all this talk about global domination and fancy technology, we got to talk about the elephant in the room.
Which is,
Geopolitics. CATL's success, it's happening alongside China's own rise in, the electric vehicle market.
right, right. And the Wikipedia article definitely touched on that. It mentions some concerns, from U.S. lawmakers about relying too heavily on a Chinese company,
Mhm.
especially for something as important as, like, batteries.
Yeah, and those concerns, they aren't coming from nowhere. The more we depend on electric vehicles, the more those supply chains, they become a big deal.
For everyone.
Everyone, even national security, it's all connected.
Yeah, the article even talked about Duke Energy having to disconnect CATL batteries from a U.S. military base over security concerns. And then there's Ford catching heat for using CATL technology in their U.S. factories.
A tough situation. On the one hand, we got to make sure the supply chains are diverse and secure.
Right. Can't have all our eggs in one basket.
Exactly. But on the other hand, CATL, they're a major player in this global industry. Cutting them out completely, it could backfire.
It's like we want the cake, but we don't want to deal with the, like, recipe.
It's definitely a balancing act,
Right.
trying to figure out the best path forward.
It's a tough one, for sure. And it feels like with all the advancements CATL is making, the stakes are only getting higher. Like, remember when they announced that battery? The one with the, like, million-mile lifespan?
Oh, yeah. That's a game changer, if they can actually pull it off.
A million miles. It's like driving to the moon and back twice. Seriously, though, that sounds incredible. Like, imagine electric cars that, like, literally last forever. Or at least, their batteries do.
It's a goal that has everyone in the industry watching, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And it's not just about cars either. Think about, like, grid storage for renewable energy sources.
Right. So we could actually use all that solar and wind power even when the sun's not shining or the wind's not blowing.
Exactly. It could be huge. But, CATL's not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Mm.
They're also working on this other type of battery, sodium-ion batteries, remember?
Oh, yeah. Are those going to, like, replace lithium-ion batteries altogether? Is that the plan?
It's too early to say for sure. But sodium-ion batteries, they're really interesting because, see, they use materials that are way more abundant and cheaper, too.
Okay, so, like, less of the whole supply chain issue.
Potentially, yeah. And they're safer, too. Less risk of, fires or explosions.
That's always good. But are they as good as lithium-ion batteries? Like, can they hold the same amount of charge?
That's the trade-off.
Hmm.
Right now, they don't have quite the same energy density, meaning you need a bigger battery to store the same amount of power.
Okay, so maybe not the best for, like, a tiny phone battery.
Right. But for something like an electric car or a home energy storage system, where size isn't as much of an issue, they could be perfect.
It's all about finding the right tool for the job, right?
Exactly. And CATL seems to be building a pretty impressive toolbox.
They do. So where does this all leave them? They're on top of the world, right? But there's, like, all this competition and the geopolitical stuff we talked about. What do you think? What's next for CATL?
Predicting the future is always a bit of a gamble. But if I had to bet, I wouldn't bet against CATL. They've shown they can adapt, innovate, and they're not afraid to make big moves.
They're definitely not afraid to shake things up. But, like, what does all this mean for, the average person, someone who maybe just heard the name CATL for the first time today?
It means the next time you see an electric car, there's a good chance CATL is a part of that story. Same goes for, like, renewable energy. They're the quiet force behind a lot of these big changes that are happening.
Quietly powering the future. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is, and it just shows you the world is changing fast. And companies like CATL, they're the ones driving that change.
For better or for worse, I guess. But that's a conversation for another time. For now, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into CATL, the battery behemoth powering your future. This is The Deep Dive, signing off.